Thanks, Gregor. Evening, Paul. Was that a coach's hunch, or what was the rationale behind playing Dominic Toninato tonight in that fourth line spot?
You get to know a guy over the course of the time that we spent, and and then part of is the games that he played. His decisions were always really, really good, real good IQ. But again, I kind of said this morning, it was more the look of the three of them together. They understood each other's game, so it was. I think in truth, the other coaches had a real strong feeling about that, and I didn't. They were very strong that Dominic's work here meant he was most ready to play in a game that we anticipated tonight being, and they pushed hard for it, and they were right. He played. I mean, I scored the game-winning goal, but the game was right. His game was right. That line was very good.
We'll go next to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
All that skill on the ice, and we get a 2-1 mainly game, and then your scorers are Pullman and Toninato, who didn't score an NHL goal all year. How do you explain all that?
It's really, really consistent with playoff hockey, right? It's we've just seen that so many times that the skill in some ways cancels itself out, and it's the grit and grind guys who go to the net, put a puck to the net, stand in front of the net. It's their game all year long, and playoff hockey gets to become like their game, and they're good at it.
We'll go next to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Thanks, Gregor. Paul, building on what you just said, the last couple of days heading into the playoffs, you talked about chances off the rush disappearing. You did that tonight against the Edmonton Oilers. You said goals would come in tight. Well, those two first goals, they come like that. You said McDavid could be slowed down. It looked like you did that.
I don't know that I ever said that. Hang on now. I agree with the first two. I don't know that I think I've said the opposite, that he could be slowed down.
Well, maybe that you had to throw speed bumps. I heard someone use the term throwing speed bumps in front of him through the neutral zone. So it looked like you did that. Why did you have so much confidence that your team would be able to execute that vision? Because that game tonight looked like exactly what you said it was going to look like.
I think that's just playoff hockey. I don't think that's a major adjustment from what we tried to do. And it's one game, right? So I thought both teams were actually slightly tentative in some of their play with the puck early, which is understandable. It was a little bit more physical at times, so there weren't a lot of plays made. And then neither team generated much off the rush tonight, which is just prototypical of playoff hockey. I thought they did a better job getting to our crease and scrumming pucks. Where Connor was really good, was in heavy traffic within 2 feet of the blue paint. I think that's an area that we have to improve on. So I think we've all watched an awful lot of playoff hockey. I'm talking about you guys as well. And the game eventually gets to look like that. And that's kind of what it looked like tonight.
We'll go next to Scott Billick from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Thanks, Gregor. Hey, Paul. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but the second period didn't start likely the way that you wanted it to. The goal gets scored. There's a bunch of turnovers from your team. And then Nate Thompson makes a play on the wall. It seems like a simple play, but he wins a puck battle and gets the puck out to Blake, right, and the goal gets scored. You had a lot of contributions from depth players tonight. I mean, how important is just even those small little plays in a tight series?
So those are not small plays. Those are the most critical plays at this time of year. It's going to be a battle on the wall that gets won that will lead to something special, because most of the positioning by both teams is going to be above the puck. They're just not the plays that you see in the regular season. So the game becomes that. It's just within 2 feet of the walls, making those plays, winning those battles. I agree. I felt they pushed hard early in the second. We turned a bunch of pucks over as much out of positioning than anything else. I thought we got a little bit more stretched than we should have. I think it also led to the number of icings that we had tonight that can be really, really dangerous against that team because of what they'll come off the bench with on those. So the game kind of, the hope is it looked like the way playoff hockey is supposed to look. There's nothing more to the game. Win the battles along the walls, get to the net, and you got a chance to win, and you have a chance, and that's all it is. So I think it kind of looked the way we thought it would.
We'll go next to Sarah Lesky from TSN. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, Paul. Your team was credited with 68 hits in that game. And in particular, it seemed, I mean, I don't know if you feel that 68 is the accurate number, but how much of an emphasis was there on maybe setting a physical tone and finishing checks early?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There were probably 12 in the game. Like, finishing your checks is a defensive concept. It's not about softening the other team up always. It's about being on the right side of your check. That's the easiest way to do it. I did not feel that it was an overly physical first game of a series. I thought there were some good hits and some hard hits. And I think Adam Lowry was in on a bunch. Logan Stanley was a bunch. They had a few guys finish their checks. Yeah, that stat, Sarah, wouldn't be one that I thought was particularly indicative of what I saw from the bench.
We'll go back to Sarah Lesky for a follow-up. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, you mentioned Logan, and he was credited with 8 hits. But just overall, when you look at the play of his game, physical side, as well as the shots, everything, what stood out to you most about him in his first Stanley Cup game?
I thought he was at the right speed for the game. So that's what you worry about, the young players not understanding this game will get faster. The pressure that you're under usually is a little bit quicker. And he seemed to handle that really well. Made a number of real good outlet passes and kind of inside passes, which is a part of his game, which is probably the natural part of his game. He's a good puck mover, and he can get the puck to the net from the blue line. And then that physical part of the game, for me, with Logan, is all based on foot speed. When he's at the right pace of his game, the hits, he finds the hits an awful lot more. He just gets to them an awful lot more. And so for game one, we got a couple of guys that hadn't played in a while, or a couple of rookies. I thought Vesalainen and Stanley were real strong in their first game.
We'll go next to Murat Atesh from The Athletic. Go ahead, Murat.
Thanks, Gregor. Hi, Paul. I guess Adam Lowry would be the second line center if you're going by ice time today. And what could you say about how that line did mostly against Draisaitl?
Yeah, they changed that. They got into the second period and they started to work away from that matchup. And then I kind of was doing it almost by zone starts for faceoffs after, tried to get away from it a little bit. They were good. I mean, that's the rotation that if you go back, Kopp, Lowry, and Armia Tanev, whoever's on the right side now, it's Appleton, comes out in the 2-hole, and it lets you, and if it's a hard match, then you'd kind of say, all right, well, we'd be all right with their second line center coming out third instead of second. It changes on time while it's the minutes played. So we were good. Like we did a lot of good things tonight. There's a bunch of places that we're going to have to get better as this goes on, but they're going to have a bunch of things they're going to want to do better too. So it was a good start.
Go back to Murat Atesh for his follow-up. Go ahead, Murat.
Whether it was Lowry or the other centers, how did you feel about, I guess, keeping your forwards on the right side of those dangerous players at all the right times tonight?
I thought we were good originally, and I don't mean in terms of the game, in terms of where the play starts. I thought from the original positioning, coming out of the zone, we were good with that. I actually found us to be less aggressive. I'd like us to be more aggressive in some certain areas. I think we can control the puck a little bit better, not sit quite as far off some of our checks. I think our gap can improve a little bit. And then there was a bunch of good entry denials where we kicked it to the outside. They had possession, but we were still able to control the middle of the ice. So, you know what? We played pretty good, right? So we're happy with our game, but I think we have better.
Just a few more for Coach. We'll go next to Kelly Moore from 680 CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, Paul, I don't know how it felt on the bench, but in the first half of the second period, and you even mentioned they came at you pretty good. So from that perspective, after falling behind 1-0 and then Tucker scores that big goal, how significant was that in getting things maybe back a little bit more in order?
Yeah. I think that's all perspective, Kelly, because you have to expect a team with the two leading scorers in the league. There are going to be sections of this game where they control you offensively, and they were in on us, and they had zone time, and they got some scrum pucks to the net. But we were still able to mitigate some of the odd man idea, or even the heavy 2-on-1s coming out of the corner from your own end. Like, our layering wasn't too bad. So in every game that we play against this team, because of the personnel they have, there's going to be a section or a chunk of that game where they have what it looked like. And we would hope that if in that section where they have that control, it looks like what you saw tonight. Yep, they had zone time. They were on us pretty good. We were still able to, control kind of the odd man rushes. And I'm talking about odd man rushes out of corners. Like, we didn't get beat to the net too often. And then when we did, when there was a scrum, Connor was real good, but he's an elite goalie. So that's what we have to offer the other team. We've got an elite goalie as well. So I'm not sure. How do I put this in perspective? Coming in to this game, that it was going to be this high scoring game. Like we're not shutting this team down. They're going to have that. And I think in the way that they had it tonight, we were pretty good in handling it.
Go next to Jeff Hamilton from the Free Press. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Gregor. Hey, Paul. Given how much emotion was headed into this game, whether it was excitement or maybe some of the, stuff left over from the last, little while here, discipline was always going to be an important part of this game, but it felt like the discipline went beyond just not taking bad penalties, but kind of walking that playoff line and not walking over it. What did you think about your club's discipline tonight?
Yeah, I thought our bench emotion was really good. It got heated up a couple times during the game, but it was, I thought it was right. There's a place in our game to get more aggressive than we played tonight, but you know what? I think, a question I got asked earlier today, I think that because we've played in some playoff games now, the scrums aren't personal, right? But if you get in there, you call each other names, everybody gets a face wash, and then you just go to the bench, right? So it takes you a little while to learn that. I thought, it's going back, but that Nashville series taught us all that we needed to know about that. I mean, it was a scrum after every whistle, and I mean, Dustin Bufflin probably started half of them. I get all that, but you learn that, right? You learn then that you just whistle to whistle, whatever happens after, stick up for each other, but don't make it a personal thing. You're not hanging over the board screaming at the ref expecting a call. They managed the game well here tonight. It wasn't ever that heated that they had to make a point to slow the game down or to settle either team down. Both teams were pretty disciplined with it.
And final question to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Thanks, Gregor. Hey, Paul, I'm going to go way back to that answer you gave me earlier on. I agree with you, and we know what playoff hockey looks like. I guess what I'm asking is, what gave you the confidence that your team that struggled down the stretch could get to that playoff game right in time when you admittedly said the intensity stepped up in the North Division at some point in the season that you guys missed it?
Because in the games that we lost coming out of that, and in a couple of the games that we won, the things that were going to present itself in this game tonight, we started to get better at. And we started to, more importantly, that we started to appreciate the fact that those things were very, very important. So I think that the room kind of, the best way I can explain it, got to one brain, right? Kind of accepted the fact that we all have to play the exact same game, regardless of what line you're on. And we all have to play the same way, regardless of our skill level. So we had it was a really important step for us. And I think we got to that.
Thanks very much, Coach.
Okay, yes.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be back with you after practice tomorrow. Have a good night.